Toast, the US listed leader in restaurant tech, processes $204 billion worth a year across 171,000 locations. And its own leadership still calls AI, and I quote, an emerging growth lever, not a fully proven driver, end quote. Now, if the best funded, most scaled player in this category hasn't cracked AI ROI as yet, the honest question for every Indian SME platform claiming to have solved it is, well, quite simple. On what basis? India's SME digitization story is very real, but it's also a story where most platforms serve small businesses that can barely afford the software, let alone prove what AI adds to it. Mr. Parthiv Patel, who is the co-founder of Petpooja in 2000, he co-founded Petpooja in 2011 and runs it as the CEO, joins me exclusively on Front Page, and really looking forward to the conversation because, well, trust me, we're going to have a conversation about SaaS Apocalypse and a lot more. It's always a tongue twister. Welcome to the show. How are you doing, Parthiv?
Doing good. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Pleasure to have you with us. Truly looking forward to the conversation. Now, first and foremost, I'd like to start with this so that we can essentially set the ground in terms of what's going to happen as far as the context goes as we go deeper into the conversation. Now, every time a restaurant rings up your bill on a screen, that's a POS, a point of sale system. Petpooja builds that, plus billing, inventory, payroll, and procurement on one platform. Now, essentially software as a service, SaaS, making it a subscription-based model rather than something you buy and install once. So then, Parthiv, I have this question for you. For everyone out there who'd like to do some Petpooja, no pun intended, what does Petpooja actually do and who's it built for?
So we started with a very, very clear vision of giving SMBs enough firepower to fight the larger chains, right? I mean, those who have more resources.
Sure.
That was the thought process we started with. Essentially, we used to call it Vada Pav Dabeli outlets. That's actually where we wanted people to use our software.
Nice.
We were very, very clear that they would not have many resources, right? Which
Sure.
means your tech have to be extremely simple, extremely affordable. That is the point we started with, right? Today, we serve more than 1.2 lakh odd, SMBs on our platform. And we are seeing actually people who were doing only billing now use multiple modules from Petpooja, right? I mean, it's full-fledged AR, ERP. We started with billing module. Now you have integrated outlets with, Zomato, Swiggy, only,
Right.
everybody. You also have third-party integrations like, accounting software, CRMs, BI tools, literally everything which merchant would require to, analyze his business, run his business, whichever way you want to see it, right? So all of those things are part of the ERP. Even they manage their inventory on Petpooja. We recently launched, I think it is just a year or 1.5 years ago, a payroll. That is also very well accepted right
Fair
now.
enough.
In our audience, right? I mean, we are seeing a lot of these gaps in SMB where all of these workflows were not digitized. They were monitored manually or through Excel sheets. All of them are now actually getting properly digitized, and all of them are also interconnected.
Fair enough.
And I'll give you one example of this.
Sure.
If a person is not in the outlet, right, the first order, Zomato order or Swiggy order, which I'm going to receive, might not be served, right? So you want to actually make sure that your people are half an hour or hour earlier in the outlet, which payroll can make sure that people are actually coming to outlet. Then they would start their POS, then they would start Zomato, Swiggy, online store. All of those things automatically happens, right? And all of them then makes a full cycle for a merchant.
Very interesting. Parthiv, I have to ask you this. I mean, what gave you the motivation? Because, what I could sense was the fact that this is more like you equipping David so that he can go fight Goliath, which is a nice thing. But what inspired you? What gave you that, motivation to say, all right, wait a minute, I'm going to go ahead and do this one? And what inspired the name Petpooja? It's quite unique.
Okay, so we started with, and there's a very, very funny backstory. We started with, actually, we wanted to play an aggregator role between corporates and restaurants, right? I mean, so if you look at banks, they have a lot of hiring already going on, right? And all of those new hires, they train them. And
Sure.
those training goes on for a week, 2 weeks kind of thing. In those training, they would require a breakfast, lunch, all of those things. They order from somewhere and needs to be delivered on time so that new trainees actually can, focus on whatever trainings which they are giving out, right? This was the problem statement we started with. We thought that Petpooja is going to be the good name to start this kind of aggregation because people would then easily connect, right? If I want to order a food, Petpooja would become a unique name. That was the thought process we started.
Fair.
Two problems we got at that point of time. And this was in, I think, 2012-13 era I'm actually talking about. Internet penetration was low, right? Which meant the outlet level, there was absolutely no tool they were using.
Sure.
Every time I receive an order from bank, I pass it on to my merchant. I have to call him 3-4 times. Right? Literally, I have to ask, is outlet open? Have you started preparing the food?
Right.
Can I send my delivery boy? Has delivery boy left? Literally all of calls I have to do, right? And that made us think that this is going to be really, really unscalable. If you do 1,000 calls in a day,
Correct.
if you do 2,000 orders in a day, you're talking about 4,000 calls.
Right.
Right? It is going to be messy. So that was the first problem. And second problem was, I am a Gujarati. We actually love business where money comes early and then you have to pay back. So we thought that, corporates pay us at, let's say, 45, 60 days credit.
Correct.
And we have to pay our restaurants 15 days, 30 days, right? That is like a really, really a working capital heavy business, right? And you want to make sure that kind of situation doesn't happen. Every time you increase the business volume, you have to, increase your working capital limits, right?
Sure.
So this was the second problem actually we saw. We don't want to get into. And this is why we actually looked at, why don't we build a tool for, restaurants? And by the way, me and my co-founder Apurva, both of us have seen an outlet run at very, very close angles. When I say close angle, my uncle used to run an outlet.
Fair enough.
Right. And this was in engineering days when Saturday, Sunday, we used to go there. We used to actually do almost everything except food preparation. Waiting, table cleaning, billing. And when you say billing, मैं manual bill बनाता हूँ. Literally, I actually created calculate. And I used to tell my uncle, एक bill बनाने में, it was like 10 minutes.
Wow.
I used to tell him, why don't we get a billing system?
Sure.
He used to tell me, boss, who is going to manage the billing system?
Correct.
Right? This was the thought process. So we were very, very clear that this audience, and when we started going out in the outlet in 11, 12 too, when we saw nothing has much changed, they would require new age tools. They would get a lot of orders from different places, which meant you need to rewrite complete OS layer. That's actually how the motivation started. We created a vision diagram. I told Apurva that, why don't we have a vision which is like 7-8 years vision? That's actually the diagram we created.
Nice.
8-year vision diagram. Literally 8-year vision diagram. And we said, yaar, agar marenge, to ye karte marenge. Otherwise, let's see what happens.
That's fabulous vision and passion, to be honest, Parthiv. And the fact that, you guys picked on one thing and you just kept going time and again, banging it again and again. But is it again, would it be correct for me to say then now that post this wonderful journey that you've had, and of course you're continuing on it, Kem cho? Maja macho?
All well. It is still the same day zero for us. In
Fabulous.
fact, it is actually making more sense by the way.
Wonderful. But okay, so if you could just be kind enough to give us perspective, Parthiv, when you talk about outlets, right? I mean, you talked about, let's say, a billing taking 10 minutes, for example. What is the size of outlets that you started with? And obviously, I'm sure by now you have expanded. I mean, the number in itself is proof of the pudding. 1.2 lakh plus is what you're talking about. But what was the kind of size that you were kind of catering to initially? Also, the challenges that you had to kind of overcome, because there are a lot of mindset challenges when you kind of go ahead and approach a customer who's been doing this for the last maybe about 15 years, and he'd probably say कि अरे extra खर्चा है यार, कौन करेगा इसमें, इतना झंझट है, इतना सर दर्द है, मैं अपना ठीक है बिलिंग ऐसे ही कर लेगा. So how did you convince?
Yeah, I mean, we were also lucky, Sudhir, but I'll actually tell you. See, we saw that 3 things have happened in between, I think, 2013-14 to 2017-18, actually. One was internet penetration, right? It was really, Reliance Jio came in, the price of internet really came down.
Sure.
Internet became prevalent. You were starting to see food pandas, Zomato, Swiggies of the world at that point of, right? All of those early signs were there, right? So internet from a business point of view also was not something people were against it. Yes, it was not as prevalent as it is today, but the inertia was going down against internet, right? So that was first. Second thing was, see, if you actually notice, nobody today and no owner sits at the billing desk, right? Go to any outlet, however good it is, is it fine dine, it is QSR, whichever way you do it. That journey we have seen in 2014 onwards, actually, where the new age, when, the new generation, when they wanted to come into this business, they wanted to run outlets mostly remotely, mostly from the office. Right? They didn't want to sit at the billing desk. That was the biggest change where we saw it. Right? So this where the 2 major changes happened in those duration. Now that meant people would want to monitor their outlets remotely. From sitting in office, from car, from wherever they are, right? Or from home. And to do that, cloud became necessity. Right? This is actually how it played out for us. So what we had to solve for was mostly training billers on how to make it more and more easier. In fact, we still have this thing where we onboard clients in less than 1.5 hours. The first onboarding has to happen in less than 1.5 hours. Right? And in that we literally onboard 3 personas, biller, manager and manager. An owner, right? So what happens is the biller has to make it should look very, very simpler for the biller.
Sure.
And when we initially started, the thought process was also that we would go to those Dabeli and Vada Pav outlets where essentially you are creating 1,000 bills in a day.
Correct.
Right? So your system is extremely stress tested. Right?
Interesting.
And it actually made sense for us. Literally, that was the best decision. We took it from, and most of the software, most of the investors you would actually go to, they would say, "Yeah, enterprise mein jaake becho, SMBs pay." I mean, we were very, very clear. It was more of product, market, co-founder, culture fit. So we were very, very clear. We come from that SMB background. We wanted to actually solve for SMB bank, and we did that.
It's a wonderful thought. So essentially, I'm probably, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm looking at, let's say, if I were to look at the entire lay of the land, so you would probably cater to a restaurant which is, like you yourself mentioned, for checking the robustness of your overall platform. You went to a customer which would be probably billing about 1,000 bills a day. So I'm presuming somewhere in terms of a turnover of about maybe, let's say, about 10 lakhs to somewhere in the range of about 60, 70, 80 lakhs. That's probably the scale, or is it something different?
Yeah, it is slightly lesser, right?
Okay.
So those Vada Pav Dabeli outlet were actually at that point of time 15, 20 rupees single bill, right?
I was talking per month.
No, per per bill, right? So
Okay.
if I'm printing 1,000 bills, you're talking about probably, at max actually, to 20,000, 15,000, 10,000 kind of turnover, right?
Fair
So
enough.
it used to start from 2-3 lakhs to probably 80-90 lakhs. That's
Wonderful.
actually how.
Yeah, because I mean, that just, the figure tends to, Parthiv, then give all of us kind of the understanding in, probably getting into the nitty gritties of the enterprise software that you had built. Because if it could deal with this to that, that's a different scale altogether, which is something that you've been able to kind of go ahead and incorporate over your journey. Now, talking about AI, I mean, obviously there has been an advent of AI. You have been doing this since 2011. AI now seems to be obviously something which is front and center in the spotlight. So then I want to ask you this, and I want to give you a few figures so that maybe then you'll be able to kind of go ahead and tell us, how do you feel about that? Now, Toast has its 171,000 locations, $204 billion in payments processed, and its own leadership admits AI hasn't proven repeatable returns, as I'd mentioned earlier as well. Now, if Toast can't prove AI ROI at that scale, according to you, Parthiv, how do you kind of, in some way or the other, counter this so-called skepticism? If, let's say, one of your new customers who you're adding has read up on this and says, wait a minute, man, those guys have not been able to do it. How are you promising me something at, let's say, your scale?
Cool. And so I want to add two things here. Right?
Sure.
See, we started AI journey, AI and robotics both, by the way. We
Wonderful.
started from 2018 onwards. We were like, okay, and I would tell you the story because, see, if you remember, I told you actually we started with that 8-year, 9-year vision.
Right.
It played out really, really well for us.
Hmm.
Right. And we believed that doing over engineering to an extent where, if people are not able to today, probably the usage metrics don't fit in, it's okay. Probably you need to hang on for probably a couple of more years, and then you would actually see the journey happening, right? That's actually what we've seen in product. We believe it is going to be the same case for AI. See, when we started, we were typically looking at it from a perspective of those CNN models. Literally, we have started our journey from those convoluted neural network models, right? YOLO model, which can identify cat, dog, animals, all of those things, right?
Fair.
That's actually where we started, essentially. We wanted to digitize invoice at that point of time, whatever purchase invoice they do. And this was in 2021, before even transformer model came in, right? Which
Fair.
is OpenAI came with. So,
Sure.
see, thought process was extremely clear that AI, essentially post AI, and once again, I want to be very clear, we created a vision where pre-AI, it was more of tools, right? So we call it ourselves OS. And
Fair.
but thinking and execution has to be done by somebody,
Sure.
right? Which is the human. Post AI, we believe that you are now going to fight personas, right? You're not just giving out tools. So I'll give you one example of this.
Please.
We typically you call now, I mean, the CRM category, right?
Yes.
We call it actually a CRM category. Now, CRM is just a category till this point of time. But now we are going ahead and we are launching something called marketing money. Boss, you don't need to create a campaign, or I'm not going to suggest you the campaign. I am going to give you, based on your TG, based on your segmentation, literally create a full campaign, ask for your approval. If you approve, if you want to change anything, you can just change it in WhatsApp and automatically configure and fire.
Fair enough.
Right. So you are saying that complete marketing manager has been built in AI. Now, you can argue on this, how accurate and inaccurate this is going to be, but we have been doing these experiments now with 5 years. Literally, we are deploying our models. We are not charging clients per token basis, which means most of the products are still being charged on SaaS basis, right? And they have literally, they can use it for anything to everything. marketing manager is being one, MIS manager being second one. So I want to analyze my business for last 6 months, or I want to analyze my business for last 2 years, let's say. Just should be able to write a question and analyze, right? People are putting 30 questions in our AI agent today. Literally. I mean, I'm talking about today, actually, roughly around 7 to 8 billion tokens being used every month on our product.
Wow. Is the price probably factored in, Parthiv? Because I mean, the sense I could get was the fact that you, in a way, have been precursors, and the basic architecture, as far as your entire platform is concerned, has had AI embedded in it in a big way. Prior to, of course, the big moment in November, in which November of 2022, where OpenAI went ahead and changed the way we would able to kind of embrace AI and understand AI, etc. But prior to that, it's very clear that your entire ideology has been based out of AI. So then, with now this entire tokenization, etc., discussion going on, I'm pretty sure you would be factoring it in at some level or the other, or you found another way.
So see, I mean, so the two things, right? As a product company, I want to control end user pricing, right?
Fair.
If it is going to be, I mean, if it is going to be my clients actually want to use it based on token per token, you are going to actually kill the SMBs, right?
I agree.
They will not be able to, pay for such a hefty amount for tokens. I mean, if you ask them every month $100, probably it is not worth taking short for them. What we have done, and this is like last 5 years, 6 years is what we have been doing. You take open source model, you customize them based on your data set, which means you fine tune, you actually train, pre-train everything based on your data set. You deploy it on your infra, right? So you go to, let's say, any third party, be it Fireworks, be it E2E networks, you go ask them, GPUs, you deploy your model and make it more like a SaaS business, right? You're not paying to, OpenAIs of the world or Anthropics of the world a per token pricing. You're not using their APIs, literally, right? That's actually the philosophy we have had, and I think it is much evident right now, where our AI bills are not much, except it is mostly the deployments.
Fair point.
Right? You are paying essentially for the bare metals. That's it, not the APIs.
Wonderfully, actually intelligent of you, Parthiv, to have actually had the vision and the far-sightedness to go ahead and kind of figure it out from that point of view, which I believe now would probably be making you smile, no? That the world right now is, gung-ho about AI. Everyone is bouncing, saying, yeah, we've been doing AI, we've been doing AI. You've been doing it prior to when the world even was probably exposed to the entire concept, etc. So what is your immediate thought in this? Are you enjoying this so-called, wave of AI? And you're like, okay, wait a minute, man, I've been doing this for way long, but okay, let me go ahead and enjoy the ride right now.
Okay, so there is this thing, Sudhi. Actually, in product companies typically, right? And probably Amazon, Bezos will say the same thing. You have to have those 3 to 5 years ahead of the curve, right?
Sure.
And this is how the market has evolved. Once again, we have seen it when we were actually talking about how OS would look like. Nobody knew how OS would play out. Nobody, right? Today, once again, the same thing is happening. Probably year down the line, people would start figuring out, the pricing points at which they are giving out intelligence to their customers is not going to make sense, right?
Correct.
And you're going to see most of the products are, so if you are doing some niche, let's say in biopharma or somewhere, probably most of the products where pricing is going to matter a lot.
I agree.
Right? It means the paying per token is not going to work.
Yeah.
Not for you, not for your client.
Right. I agree with you there. Fully agree with you, Parthiv. Before I come into the, the cost sensitivity of things, as far as, and I'll give you the contrast where I'm trying to establish this for all our viewers. Please look into your crystal ball, because you've had that so-called vision and predictability aspect. What is it looking like 3 to 4 years down the line, sir? Because you were far ahead of the curve when you started with the AI. What's your prediction?
See, so I mean, from a product point of view and from an organization point of view, then let me take first an organization point of view, and you would actually realize how AI would play out in everything what we do, right? So we have one AI agent, literally the large model we call it. Actually, we have trained it. I mean, fine tuned it. I want to say Laura fine tuned it, and we deployed it on our bare metal, right? That's actually what we have done. Now we are not just powering customer queries. I mean, customer interact through a chat window. Fair. It is also the support is being powered through the same thing. Your customer is reporting is also powered through the same thing. Menu or inventory queries are also powered from the same thing. Literally everything in the organization is powered through the same thing. Now imagine it's more like atra tatra sarvatra. Same model, right? I mean, same that thinking machine is actually answering everything, in that product and at a scale by the way.
Sure, I agree.
Right? Which means the org design point of view, right? Most of the L1 stuff is now getting changed in our org. Literally in train, in onboarding, in customer success, in your support, in development. Literally everything is getting changed. Right?
No, that's wonderful. That's as far as Petpooja is concerned. My prediction, which I had requested from you, or your prediction, sorry, is how is the ecosystem going to change, Parthiv, according to you, in the next 3 to 4 years or 5 years?
We believe this is how the market would evolve, because this is an hypothesis. I don't want to be sounding very pompous here, Sudhi, that it is only Petpooja which is going to follow this. You would see world would come around to this thought process where product would be single machine, thinking machine, or multiple products would be thinking machine, and everything would be powered through that thinking machine.
Okay.
In the organization, right? That's actually how it will play out.
Okay.
Not your UX UI experiences with the client, but whatever you do in the backend also would be powered by those things.
Okay, fair enough.
Right.
That's an interesting little prediction that you're giving, Parthiv. And it's not about you being pompous. It's just somebody who's probably got their ear to the ground and probably is, very, very dedicated towards trying to understand and get a pulse of what's going on, which I believe then means that the overall mindset as far as India is concerned has to change. If you're predicting that, if we have to move away from the services, we have to start going towards the models and the product methodology. And you see that happening, I believe, right?
Okay. It has to.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right. So, Parthiv, of course, cost sensitivity is extremely important as far as your entire enterprise is concerned. Very, very important. Because, I mean, you're going ahead and catering to people who are probably got a turnover of about 30,000-40,000 rupees a month, or maybe 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs a month to about 90 lakhs a month, right? But cost sensitivity is something which is going to draw the customer in. Now, how is it that you have been very consistent in achieving that? Because let's be honest, when it comes down to an enterprise, and here's the contrast, a large enterprise has a dedicated AI budget. But let's say a 5-table restaurant owner is often kind of deciding between a POS subscription and hiring one more staff member. How have you been able to address that?
So the same thing, once again, we were very, very clear that nobody is going to pay per token in our PG, right? If I would be I would be the restaurant owner or SMB owner, business owner, I won't pay. And I won't like it. I would try to use free, and then, make my workflows work. That's actually how you would see it, right? And the reason for it, $100, $200 per month, it is unaffordable for them. Literally unaffordable. When we decided, which problem areas we would go after, right? We actually ask ourselves that where is he paying amount today, right? Sure. So marketing manager or marketing agency. So one area where can we give him actually a marketing manager, right? Where he needs, most of the brain work is done. He needs to just approve it. And once that is done, it is all automatically fired. That's it, right? So that's a one area. Second one is, let's say, purchase manager. Today, if you ask human to do, every time you do purchase, let's say 20, 40 raw materials, and ask him to go search, 3-4 portals or speak to 3-4, your vendors. It is going to be very difficult. People who do it. Actually, mostly it is going to be, one guy, and there's not going to be dedicated guy. He's going to do multiple tasks, which means the task is going to get screwed up, right?
Agreed.
We told our merchant that we would build your purchase manager, which means you would, every time you upload your rate contracts from local, we would go and search 15, 20, raw material. That's it. And automatically, I would tell you whether it is cheaper in Hyperpure, your local supplier, or somewhere else. And it would automatically configure those cards. You need to just go and approve. That's it.
Fair point.
Right. So you are saying that once again, the brain is almost done. He needs to be just approver, right? And by the way, all of those things is saving him significant amount of money now. Right? The marketing manager, the purchase manager. Similarly, the operations manager. If today I would run my, MIS, I need an MIS guy to do analysis. I would want to figure out whether, if whatever price increase I have done, is it actually meaningfully impacting my business or not? Right? I want to see all of it. Who is going to do all those analysis for him? He's going to actually probably spend more of his time into it.
Yes, agreed.
Or he would hire somebody to do some third party
as a consultant, etc.
Yeah, freelancers actually. A lot of these guys depend on small this kind of stuff for freelancer. They hire freelancer. Once again, same thing. We have seen actually they spend, and the communication gap between freelancers and owners are significant, right? So, and because context is missing at the freelancer's end, he might not have the significant context which probably restaurant guy
Fair
has,
point.
right? So all of those combined, now we are seeing, you need to be approaching next level for him, which means you give him those things on his fingertips and see what he's doing. Right.
Fair. So then automatically that in a big way justifies the pricing when you're going ahead and talking about a subscription as far as the software and the platform is concerned, logically.
The AI agent, we made it in the base subscription. We told them, we are not going to charge for AI agent. You do whatever you want to do. Ask what questions. People actually ask 3 years, this thing, complete thing, all of those things, they keep asking the AI agent. Right? 3 years performance. How was I doing actually last year versus this year? How was my Holi last year versus this year? And what has changed? In which item? Where do you think actually? Is it a price increase? Is it a volume increase?
Which is a great value addition. As a utility, it's a great value addition. Right.
Yeah. I mean, see, this was previously a BI tool where you have to do slice and dice. Today, all of those are actually on your fingertips. You are doing it while even driving the car.
Understood.
Right?
Which obviously facilitates a smoother sort of a working method, understanding, obviously improving your overall efficiencies. So fair. Understood. Fair. As far as Zomato is concerned, you mentioned Zomato, Swiggy, etc. Now, March of 2026, okay, now how did that affect you, Parthiv, in terms of, let me go ahead and share the context. Platform fees jumped 19.2%. So basically, on a 500 rupee order, a restaurant can be left with only 325 rupees. NRAI has filed a formal complaint with India's Competition Commission. A December survey found 35% of restaurants would quit both platforms tomorrow if they could. Now, Petpooja integrates directly with both, as you'd mentioned earlier. Now, does that integration help restaurants reduce their dependence on Zomato and Swiggy, or does it just make it easier for the aggregators to keep taking their cut?
So, let me answer this slightly differently, right?
Sure.
We have been very, very clear about one thing where essentially from wherever, if any portal, my merchant would be able to receive an order, we would try to enable. Right. And that is how in fact, we were the largest, we were the only, I think, POS player who has done the largest onboarding of the outlets on ONDC. Right. I mean, we enabled almost 25,000, 30,000 odd outlets on ONDC through different seller apps.
Okay.
Right? So we were the layer actually behind seller apps, where seller apps were onboarding so many outlets, right? And this was done by us. In fact, today, most of the new aggregator who wants to join in, including, let's say, Rapidos only, we are the ones who are helping them onboard outlets.
Interesting. Okay.
Right? I mean, so we are extremely clear that it will not. So we would work for our merchants, thought process, merchants benefit.
Which then goes back to your entire vision in the first place, that you wanted to
Yeah.
go ahead and solve problems for the SMEs, and that remains constant.
Exactly, right? I mean, and this is why you want to keep onboarding more and more such aggregators, make it easier for them so they can actually give decent competition to whatever existing aggregators, right?
Fair
Now,
point. Fair point.
that's our approach. That has been our approach. See, we believe that aggregators, and I don't want to name anybody here because it's not that there are only, it's much more nuanced view. It's not exactly the white and black view, actually. Even from a merchant point of view, we have seen
Can't
this.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen this kind of discussions happening again and again. Yeah, they are going to be necessary. Yes, for merchants, they are going to be necessary. Today, it is a necessity for them too, right? It is a necessary evil. Yes, probably yes, right? Because there is this some amount. They are actually taking a decent cut out of those orders, which is actually the truth, right?
Yes, it is.
So can some more competition can solve it? Yes, that we believe only way you want to actually make this kind of, instead of going back to the old age kind of concept where you remove the integration, and we have seen that even if the talk of integration disintegration start, nobody does it. At the end of the day, everybody stays with Zomato, Swiggy. So the best way in that scenario, the best approach for NRAI or for even merchants is going to be actually make themselves available on every single platform.
I agree. Fully agree
Right?
there.
That would reduce their dependence on only two aggregators.
Yep, I agree with you, which is actually a good initiative that Parthiv, that you're going ahead and executing in a big way. Like you just mentioned, 25,000 people you've aggregated on one platform, and you're continuing to do so, because I feel that is the only solution in a big way. I honestly do not agree with that business practice, which has been initiated by a Zomato or a Swiggy, etc., because they're going ahead and taking undue advantage, exploiting the overall situation. Because at the back of the mind, as far as an entrepreneur is concerned who's running a restaurant, he will always have that, right? That, boss, what do I do? I'll get hurt if I'll lose so much volume. So okay, margin kam hota hai, koi baat nahi, main wahan se kama lunga. So, but yeah, it's unfortunate where you're going with this. And at least, yes, there is some initiative to go ahead and find some sort of a negation to that entire perspective. Which then brings me to this. I want to understand this from you. As far as, your own fundraise is concerned, and this is the figure I have. I hope I've gotten it right. Petpooja has raised close to $27 million total. Global peers in the same category have raised hundreds of millions. Now, question is that discipline a strength, Parthiv? Or does it mean Petpooja is underfunded against competitors who can outspend it on AI?
I mean, it was probably the forced discipline.
That's a good thing, honestly.
So see, so actually, when we were going out in 2017-18 for raising fund, right? I mean, barring last year, we were like literally probably as far as our size is concerned, we were the only player in this category. Even in India, the less funding you can definitely get, literally, and we were like by margins of 1/10 of the funding of any other competitor, even in India, would have raised at that point of time, right? So from that perspective, actually, we were really underfunded. Sure, when we were going out initially, this was in 2018-19. People used to kind of, most of the investors used to think that it is probably not the serious player because the name was Petpooja, We had a reason why we wanted to keep Petpooja, and we used to tell that, yeah, Apple ne Apple bana diya. Why can't we have Petpooja, right? Apple is
Fair
also
point.
food, right? And we kept telling those things actually, but yeah, people thought कि यार ये तो थोड़ा ज़्यादा ही हो गया. So anyway, so they did not see us a serious player. In fact, because of the SMB this thing, right? Mostly, and in SMB typically we have seen that a lot of investors have actually burned their heads, right? Which also was negative for us. India, and that to SMB, not enterprise, right?
Sure.
So your ticket size is much smaller, and all of those things, and churn higher. So it's how it is, right? You can't deny that. Now we had a vision of only SMB serving SMB, and that to India, right?
Sure.
So we were not building business for raising money, right? We wanted to serve our customers, so we kept doing. So yeah, funding happened in the journey late, but that's still okay.
Honestly, Parthiv, I mean, you being somebody who comes from a wonderful pedigree of business because you being a Gujarati, I'll be honest, that's the right way to go about a situation, right? I mean, to keep your belt tight, to keep your vision very clear, and the profits and the margins and all of those things, etc., will follow automatically, according to me. That's the way I look at it. So I think it's a very good idea to remain disciplined as far as funding is concerned, and to go ahead and keep growing with very, very clear focus on your vision. So yes, kudos to that, Parthiv. But then the SaaS Apocalypse discussion took place. You remember that, right? And I'd like to go ahead and jog your memory with this one. Now, Klarna's CEO argued AI would kill SaaS by eliminating switching costs. And by the way, that figure was quite crazy. Remember February SaaS Apocalypse, $830 billion wiped in 48 hours. Yeah, that still is mind-boggling. Anyway, now his own company, which is Klarna, still plays for SaaS tools. By mid-2026, the consensus was that deeply embedded platforms survive generic, easy-to-replace ones. Really don't. So, I want to ask you this. Is Petpooja the kind of platform that survives that shift because restaurants are too deeply embedded into it to leave? Or is that just something that, SaaS companies logicize all the time who are faced with this question that I'm asking you?
So, see, you can't deny one thing, which is going to be, is there going to be more competition? Yes, there's going to be more competition.
Sure.
Depending on which category you are in, there's going to be, there's going to be pressure. Now, if as a company, you don't envisage the next level of architecture, whichever size you are, next level of, next level of products, next level of suits, next level of, customer problems, then probably you are going to go down for sure. There's no way anybody can, survive those kind of mindset. Genuinely, that is, and it is mostly going to be this problem. We don't believe that it is going to be, you have to go case by case here in SaaS. A lot of SaaS would actually evolve into SaaS AI kind of metrics. They would actually bring that innovation. They would also bring significantly better suit for their clients, right? And once they improve their servicing, I think it is in fact going to be much more difficult for customer to shift from those platforms to any other.
Okay.
Right? It is, in fact, I would actually argue otherwise. And I see that happening. So let's say Shopify for that matter, right? Anybody can build a website now with AI and stuff like that. It is still difficult. It is going to be still difficult for anybody to build Shopify ecosystem as far as that ecosystem is concerned. Actually.
That's true, actually. That's a very valid point.
And it is how, and it has played out so well, right? So till this point of time. So SaaS will make more competition. Yes, it is going to make more competition actually. And there are going to be multiple players, which is what we are going to see, and we are seeing by them on the ground. But
so according to you, it would be something which would be a hybrid, Parthiv. Am I understanding it correctly? With the advent of AI, you're saying with the SaaS and AI kind of a marriage taking place because you've got a legacy of the ecosystem. The sheer amount of hard work that's been done in terms of building.
If you look at AI would run on two things, right? Today, one is obviously going to be model, and another one is going to be actually data, right?
Correct.
The ERPs host the data. right? Which means the ultimate database layer is still with us, right? So, and it in other businesses also, if you analyze in these two buckets, you would actually figure out where the data set has been, right? And where the model intelligence has been.
Correct.
Right? Now, if any SaaS player play that well, right, I think it is going to be actually significantly much more value addition for their clients compared to any new entrants, because they don't have a data. They have to go acquire
Point
data,
taken.
and then they have to actually train and do, and it is going to be right. So I think the journey is not going to be easy for any new AI upstart if we analyze this way. Yes, they are going to be category by category, but I think where the category you are talking about has a data as one of the large mode, I think you would see actually playing out differently.
No, fair point. Valid point made. I, of course, need to now understand from you, generally speaking, in terms of the fact that you've been a player who's been standing on the wicket for quite some time right now. I had to do that, Parthiv. I was going to go there. The fact that you've taken a leg stump guard and you have been playing a long innings, I have to understand from you, which is that, generally speaking, enterprise tends to adopt AI from top to down. Okay? SMEs tend to go the other way around, maybe, right? Now, I want to understand from you, how is it that it's changed? Do you see there's some difference in terms of how a small business owner today adopts AI compared to, let's say, a big company? And is that gap closing or starting to widen?
Oh, I think in last 3-4 years, right? This is actually, by the way, for your viewers and for everybody else, we are seeing actually SMB utilizing technology much faster than probably enterprise.
Okay.
Right? We are seeing them using tools, right? The tool I talked about, let's say AI agent on their platform. We are seeing, if you compare chains, which is large restaurant chains, vis-a-vis individual outlets, we are seeing the usage metrics. Individual outlet probably has been very, very fast in adopting those things. In case of enterprise, see, enterprise are going to be laggard, though they have sources.
True.
They provide this kind of tools, right? Which is the long-term story. But they're going to still laggard in terms of, they have to fight internal politics to make things
One
lag.
is politics, probably also the protocol in an enterprise, Parthiv. So many approvals, administrative aspects, red tapeism, all of that.
Yeah, so processes, politics,
Sure.
inertia by itself, right? So all of those things would require some amount of time for them to actually come around, right? Why SMBs adopt much faster? Price point is what basically makes it easier for them.
Yes.
Right? That's the way we see it.
And rightly so, which is a good thing, which is very encouraging as far as the entire ecosystem is concerned then, Parthiv. Tell me this very quickly, as far as you see, because of the adoption rate being a lot more better than an enterprise, how do you see the entire SME sector, let's say, flourishing or blossoming in the times to come? Do you think there will be a huge sort of an acceleration of a lot more SMEs coming through because technology is assisting them?
Yeah, so really, there is a contradiction here, and that is at a macro level, right? People would say jobs would go down, right, at some point of time. But you would actually see more business starting.
Yes,
right?
That's why I asked you that.
Because AI would make it much more easier for you to start new business.
Correct.
Right? Because I don't need a marketing manager, I don't need anybody else. But I
Give
can
me an
start
example, Parthiv. I'm sure through your journey, you might have seen something which would have been interesting. Maybe, let's say, a person who was a software engineer, somebody in your ecosystem who said, okay, wait a minute, man, I'm going to get out of this rat race. I'm going to start something of my own. Today, I have AI to assist me.
I have actually seen even the investors, right? Somebody who was working at large fund have started their, dosa outlets. Yeah, we have actually seen that. And by the way, they have started. So I have seen his usage of, AI at one point of probably a year ago. You would not believe. And one outlet, the way he was utilizing, the way he was fine tuning his menu, the way he was actually interacting with AI agent extremely well. I mean, then that realization was there that, people would be able to, it is going to be very easy for people to start business now. Because
And
you
also the
don't,
people who are being, unfortunately, well, layoff or whatever, that's another conversation altogether. But I'm saying
yeah,
that they're coming with an experience, Parthiv. I mean, these are people who are, engineers probably or developers, etc., whatever is the case. So that could really kind of, assist them in adopting the overall situation. They just need to understand how the business model works. But at least from the tech point of view, it can be a huge shot in the arm for them.
yep, not just a tech, right? I mean, you are saying it is changing the personas, right? Which
Yes,
means
agreed.
if I'm actually a cloud kitchen, I want to start today, go home and start cloud kitchen, right? Can I actually ask AI what are the steps? It can give me detailed steps.
Agreed.
It can give me actually particular area menu, right? All of those things are now on your fingertips, which means the starting of a business is going to be much, much easier than what you have thought, right? So this is a paradox which is going to play out really well. Hopefully, the jobs, overall jobs, if it is going to come down, you would actually see more businesses coming and faster.
Fair. That's honestly quite a positive balance when it gets actually struck. It would be a good balance to get struck. Then finally, Parthiv, before I let you go, I have to ask you this, which is the fact that, let's say, 5 years down the line, restaurants today, retail, grocery, healthcare tomorrow, 5 years from now, is Petpooja still primarily a restaurant company that expanded or something else entirely? And also, I'd like to add to that, what is that one message you'd like to give to all of those founders, as you and I were just discussing, who might be actually joining the fray with the advent of AI? What do you want to say to them? Because you've been an old experienced hand at this.
Sure. The first thing is Petpooja is not going to be only restaurant POS company. We are now an ecosystem by itself.
Fabulous.
We are a multi-product company, which means we are going to keep solving a lot of problems for SMB. Today it is restaurant, tomorrow probably other verticals, and it is bound to happen, right?
Okay.
And we keep expanding that product portfolio for sure. So it's how we look at it actually, and there is already a work in progress from our.
Wonderful.
And it is going to be a large company. That is where we want to take it towards, which means actually if there's going to be large SMB, SaaS AI or AI SaaS company, we are going to be that company, right? So that's kind of
Great.
where we are. In terms of the founders, right, who wants to see this, see AI or non-AI, right? One thing which we are very, very sure of, you have to think ahead of the curve, right? You have to build out your hypothesis and 3 years, 5 years hypothesis, and you have to keep thinking ahead of the curve because that's the only mode you would have. If you are only taking 3 months, somebody is going to catch up with you actually in less than, right? So your vision have to be continuously larger than what you are or what your company is today. Right? That is how you are going to actually keep engaging your, employees, customers, everybody.
Very well put, Parthiv. Very well put. The fact that your vision needs to be larger than yourself. Very well put. And the fact that automatically then the bootstrapping and the discipline will very easily follow without actually pinching anyone. Fabulous. Parthiv, thank you so much for being on Front Page and sharing your journey with us, and the fact that, your predictions seem to be quite interesting in terms of the fact that, yes, there will be a shift in the mindset going towards products, as we had discussed earlier, and the fact that wishing all the best to Petpooja and having that wonderful aspiration is something which I believe you'll be also able to achieve onwards and upwards, because I believe you at Petpooja are always hungry.
Thank you, Sudhi. Thank you very much.
Fair enough. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Please do let us know what are your thoughts in the comments below. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Front Page by the IM Network. Like, share, subscribe, and always remember, think AI, think AI.